Hi, Don MacKay, welcome back. I hope you've had the opportunity to watch our physio ball and beach ball session. It was great. I've had a couple of requests lately for a shortened version of hip mobility work and loosening up the hip. So what I like to do is go through a series of, say, between 3 and 5 movements where we're just working with the hip. So the first movement is borrowed from our friends who play hockey. So what we're doing, I'm in a natural stance, 1 foot steps behind. I stretch it out, I do my best to keep myself as straight as possible, and I lean into it, my arms supporting me. I let my eyes go into the direction I want to increase my mobility. I just breathe into it. If you're an old hockey player, you've probably seen this done on the ice. Same thing on the other side. So I go from my natural stance, one leg crosses in front, the rear leg steps out, I slide, feel that into my hip flexors, look up in the direction that I'm going. So that's movement number 1. Let's do that again. So natural stance, feet are shoulder width. Here, I look up, I'm leaning in, this time I'm getting a little bit more of a range of motion. Breathing into the movement. And then same thing on the opposite side. Basically borrowed from hockey players, very, very good for martial artists. People who are sitting a lot tend to have very tight lower backs. Well, really the whole package is pretty tight, but tight lower backs, tight glutes, tight hamstrings, tight hips. So the next movement is from the Slavic martial arts. I'm going to use a pole to introduce this. And this is internal and external rotation of the hip. So I've got my little walking stick pole, extend my leg. I turn my toe as far as it'll go one way. And then I turn it as far as it'll go the other way. So I'm all the way to the side. I can really feel this in my IT band, up in the hip, and in the opposite direction. Then what happens is I start to add a little bit of a figure 8 movement. So I'm warming up the hip, I'm warming up the leg, I'm getting things to relax. In the beginning, I recommend a pole. Ultimately, you'll be able to do this without a pole or support. Obviously, we could use the wall for this as well. I find the stick is a little more realistic because there's still some balance factor in there. So we're going all the way to one side. Really feel that in the IT band and opposite. So it's in and out, internal, external rotation. And then I start to add that figure 8 movement in there. So I was with the pole. So this is our movement without the pole. And obviously we'd want to do it on both sides. So our next movement, we're on the ground, and this movement, I'll do this in different directions. This comes from the great skier, champion of the 60s, Jean-Claude Keely. So this is dedicated to Mr. Keely. So, arms are here. What I'm doing is I'm hanging both of my hips off to my left. I'm just letting gravity take things down. And then same thing on the other side. Gravity, and this is a very nice movement. It doesn't look that technical or advanced. Now, we can add some undulating movement, we can add some circular movement. When I first learned this, we did not add what I would call 3-dimensional movement, but I think there's a good case to be made for getting that 3-dimensional movement in there. Our next movement is what we call frog. So basically what I'm doing is I'm allowing my knees to slide out. I'm visualizing sitting back down onto the soles of my foot. I have a little bit of a bouncing movement. And then I move forward. I'm just relaxing into the position. So this is our movement number 3, frog. When we come up, it's real important to pull those legs in together slowly. You may want to go back into the Jean-Claude Keely movement. So that's movement number 3. Our next movement is just simply alternating knees. So again, there's internal and external rotation. So one knee goes all the way down. I'm not forcing it. I let gravity take it. Comes all the way back up. The other leg goes down. So generally, as part of my routine, I would do this somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 15 times. So next, our feet, heels and knees come together. Our hands are slightly below shoulder level. I refer to this generally as rag doll. So my knees go off to one side, my head goes to the other. And I'm rotating with my hands, so one palm up, one palm down. And again, just letting gravity open up this entire area. And same thing on the other side. And you probably will notice on each one of these movements, each time as you breathe and relax into it, you're not forcing, you're just letting gravity do its thing. Your range of motion is going to increase. So this is, in a way, stretching without stretching. Probably a better way to go for most people. So that's movement number 4, ragdoll. Our next movement, bring my leg over. The weight of my top leg is bringing my bottom leg to the ground. When I start to feel a little lengthening in my glute and my hip capsule, I start to creep the bottom foot up. So this increases the amplitude of the lengthening that I'm feeling. Turn our head to the other side, so we're always getting that twisting movement in. Again, inhale, exhale. On the exhale, allow my leg to drop down a little bit more. And coming up. And I repeat that on the same side. So what we've done is we provided a little flow, standing to seated hip movement, open up the hips, warm up the hips. Hips feeling a little bit better. So as I start to feel this lengthening occur, and I want to increase the amplitude, I allow my bottom foot to creep up. It's moving up towards my shoulder. And I come back. So, we've got our alternating knees. We've got our frog position. There's a gazillion variations of this. Down and out. We can add a little yoga movement, reaching, actually resting our chest down, coming up slowly, and emphasis on slowly, sinking our glutes, or attempting to sink our glutes down onto the sole of our foot. Going back into the Jean-Claude Keely movement. Just allowing our hips to slide right off to the side, just with gravity. Coming up slowly, then moving into our Slavic hip movement. So in and out. And we've got that figure 8 movement, which also, if you're a martial artist, you can see that it has a lot of martial art carryover. And then, last but not least, where we started, is our movement borrowed from our hockey player friends. Here in New England, we have lots of hockey player friends, especially this time of the year. So we're really increasing that amplitude, a little bit of a bounce, not too much. So there we have a handful of movements that we've done for years at the Academy, both in our martial arts class and our somatic movement class. Give it a whirl. Don't push things too much in the beginning. Take your time, have fun, and always pay attention. What side feels a little tighter? And today my right side was a little tighter than my left. That may change tomorrow. If you have any questions, Our email is right there. Please feel free to send an email, and we'll get right back to you with an answer. Thank you.